Let's kick off this conversation with a quick quote from Rudyard Kipling. It's from his poem, We Had a Teapot, and it goes like this. We had a teapot at let it leak, not repairin' made it worse. Now we've had no tea for a week, and the bottom's out of the universe. That pretty much sums up what we're talking about today, the collapse of the bottom of the universe. When you think about it, history has often been ruled by minorities. Today, it's more like 10% of the world, maybe even less, that controls the rest of us. Yet, these few people rarely interact with the problems that the vast majority of us face. So, it's high time we realize that the most valuable resource we have on this planet is humanity itself. We, as individuals, are the real driving force behind our survival, not just as a species, but for everything else on Earth, too. Yet, the vast majority of us don't really have much say in how things go. We're controlled by a small group of professionals, and this is the problem. Now, these professionals aren't necessarily bad people. They're not evil, and they're not all fools. But they've become so detached from the world they're supposed to serve that they've isolated themselves in intellectual ivory towers, looking down from a distance, if they're even looking at all. The result? We're in the worst condition we've ever been in, despite the fact that in the past 50 years, science and education have made incredible leaps forward. So, what happened? The issue is simple. Our attitude toward survival has become so disconnected from the basic humanity that should guide us. However, there's a new wave of humanism on the horizon, and it's one worth considering. It's about realizing the dignity, rights, and authority of the people, the masses. These people have an inherent value that often gets overlooked. The average person isn't looking for conflict or war, and they don't want to be caught up in an industrial system that robs them of their humanity. They simply want to be good parents, good citizens, and live happy, peaceful lives. They want to live in an environment that nurtures them. Yet, the disconnect between leaders and the people has only gotten wider. And those of us who are led often begin to feel that our leaders don't really represent us anymore. As time goes on, it becomes clear. This system isn't working. But what can we do? We can't just let things keep going down the same path. Take, for example, nuclear technology. We've come so far in harnessing the power of the atom, but we still haven't figured out how to dispose of the nuclear waste safely, which threatens our very existence. And the people in charge, the ones who are supposed to be leading us, are simply incapable of managing this. Their approach doesn't match the scale of the problems we face. Something has to change. But for that change to happen, we need to acknowledge that the human being has the inalienable right to be human. We have within us far greater potential than we realize, and that potential is a lot more powerful than the intellectual structures we rely on today. You see, we are an integral part of the universe. The forces that govern us are no different than those that control the stars, the comets, or the planets. If we look within ourselves deeply enough, we can find the laws of our survival. Yet, from the moment we are born, we are thrust into a world where these internal powers are suppressed, and we are taught to follow rigid rules without questioning them. We go to school, but we aren't taught to think for ourselves. We're told to memorize and regurgitate information that doesn't necessarily have any real value in helping us figure out how to truly live. If we can't pass the tests, we fail. If we fail, we can't move forward into higher education or into careers where we can continue to perpetuate the same system of thinking. Those who rebel against this are labeled as mediocre or outcasts. Now we see all these great monuments to human ingenuity, big tech, the fascination with going to space, the moon, all these great innovations. We see the excitement in young people's eyes when they talk about computers and space exploration, but beneath all of this, we've been ignoring the problems right here on Earth. What's really happening is that we're wasting resources, fighting wars, dealing with epidemics, and depleting natural resources. Problems that could be avoided if we just took care of what we already have. But those in power are too distracted by their lofty ambitions, with no real concern for the world they've neglected. It's not easy to convince people that we need to be more thoughtful about these things, but the evidence is right in front of us every day. We can no longer afford to keep ignoring these warning signs. Here's the truth. The average person is caught in a cycle of inferiority. We've been conditioned to bow to the so-called wisdom of the elite, the professionals, the intellectuals who have isolated themselves from the real world. As a result, the average person becomes afraid to speak up, to voice their thoughts, because the moment they do, they open themselves up to ridicule. They're not confident in their own ideas because they've been taught from a young age that their own thinking doesn't matter. But here's the thing. Among all the inventions and advancements humanity has created, nothing is more important than the innate potential that we all have inside of us. This isn't just some philosophical idea. It's the core truth of who we are. And if we're looking for solutions to the challenges we face today, we need to turn inward and tap into this inner resource. Within each person is a kind of common sense that goes beyond what textbooks can teach us. It's that ability to understand things on a deeper level, to make decisions based on what's right, not just what's easy or profitable, and it's something that's been undervalued and suppressed in favor of intellectualism and conformity. Common sense isn't a fancy concept. It's an ability that everyone can access, but it's often ignored. The mind was meant to be used, not just to absorb what others tell us, but to question, to think critically, to make decisions. Sadly, though, the education system and modern society are set up to stop us from developing that capacity. We're taught to follow the status quo, to think the way we're told to think, to agree with prevailing ideas, even when they don't work. And the thing is, most people are beginning to realize something isn't right. As we come closer and closer to the reality of global conflicts and the potential for mass destruction, we know deep down that the system we're living in isn't serving us. It's not helping humanity as a whole. It's a system that benefits a small, ambitious group of people who care more about power than solving real-world problems. These people, these elites, don't care about fixing the actual issues we face. They're only interested in advancing their own agenda, be it through military might, wealth, or intellectual dominance. And they've created a world where the average person is distracted, overwhelmed, and led to believe that they have no say in shaping the future. What we've ended up with is a system built around a false promise. If we follow the path set out by these elites, we'll be rewarded. They promise wealth, fame, success, but all of these things come at a cost. The price is our individuality, our creativity, and ultimately, our very humanity. People are told that if they think for themselves, they'll never succeed. If they go along with the system, they might be rewarded with riches or prestige. But when you follow the system, you lose what makes you unique. You lose the ability to question, to explore, to create something new. Look at the world we're living in. We've turned success into a race for more More money, more power, more status, but at what cost? We've created a culture where having wealth doesn't solve any of the deeper problems in life. The richer people get, the more they seem to struggle. More money doesn't solve the existential questions we all face. It doesn't provide happiness or fulfillment. It just leads to more pressure, more distraction, and more isolation from the real world. And now we see the consequences. People are rebelling. They're revolting against the system that has kept them in line for so long. They're beginning to realize that the problem isn't with them, but with the system itself. The system that's been built by a few who pretend to know better while dragging the rest of humanity down with them. We're not just talking about political leaders or military generals. We're talking about those in power who maintain the status quo, those who tell us that if we don't conform, we'll be punished, penalized, and left behind. These people say, if you don't follow the rules, you'll be poor, you'll be outcast, and you'll be irrelevant. This is what we've been taught. Conformity is the only way to succeed. If you stray from the path, you're punished. But the truth is, the very system that's meant to help us is the one causing all the problems. The more we conform to it, the more we're trapped by it. It's no longer just about accepting things as they are. We have to start looking at the bigger picture, at the systems in place that prevent us from thriving. The world isn't going to change if we keep doing the same things over and over again. We have to challenge the system, confront its flaws, and start creating new solutions. Each person, individually, has the potential to change the world. But that change starts from within. It starts with the decision to reclaim our autonomy, our power, and our ability to think for ourselves. We must stop waiting for others to fix things. Instead, we need to look inward and realize that the solution has always been there. We just have to rediscover it. We need to stop accepting that the world will always be this way. It's not enough to simply recognize the issues. We need to take action. If we want to survive and thrive, we must unlock the true power within ourselves and use it to rebuild a world that truly works for all of us, not just the elite few. It's clear that we can't continue living under the same old systems that have gotten us into this mess. The world we're in today is a direct result of years of ignoring the true power of the individual, of failing to prioritize humanity over everything else. But this doesn't mean all hope is lost. In fact, the opposite is true. There's a shift happening, and more people are waking up to the realization that the way we've been living simply isn't working. The old systems, whether political, economic, or even educational, are crumbling. We've seen the decline of the very structures that were supposed to help us evolve. These systems have created an environment where individuals are expected to follow the rules, conform to norms, and live by standards that have nothing to do with their personal growth or the well-being of society at large. They've distracted us from the bigger picture, the need for unity, cooperation, and a common understanding of what is truly important. But now, more and more people are realizing that these systems were never designed to help us succeed. They've only been keeping us trapped, boxed into lives of uncertainty, conformity, and dissatisfaction. The problems we face aren't just going to fix themselves by continuing to follow the same path. We need to embrace a new way of thinking, one that focuses on the individual and their ability to make a meaningful impact on the world. We've seen throughout history that true change doesn't come from the top down. It comes from the bottom up. It comes from individuals realizing their potential and uniting to solve the issues that matter most. Look at how people throughout time have shaped the world, not through top-down decree, but through collective action and the power of their own integrity. These are the people who changed the course of history, not because they were in charge, but because they knew the importance of staying true to their values and acting according to their own sense of purpose. Think about it. Every time a society collapses or faces a massive crisis, it's because the people within it have lost sight of their own inner strength. They've allowed themselves to be led by others who only care about their own agendas. But now, as the pressure grows and the system begins to show cracks, more people are looking inward, questioning their roles, and taking responsibility for the direction their lives and the world are headed. We are standing at a crossroads. The old system, which has been governing us for so long, is no longer able to adapt to the changes that are needed. If we are to survive and thrive, we have to rebuild, but we must do so from the ground up. It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things. It's about recognizing that each of us has a part to play in this transformation. At the heart of this change lies a return to personal integrity and responsibility. We've forgotten what it means to be responsible for our own lives, and even more so for the world we share. But the reality is that the key to healing the world lies within us all. It's in our ability to make better choices, to reject the status quo, and to embrace the truth that we are capable of far more than we've been led to believe. It's time to let go of the illusion that success comes from conforming. We need to reject the idea that we must follow the rules set by those in power. These rules are outdated, ineffective, and no longer serve our true interests. What we need is a system that empowers individuals to think for themselves, to use their creativity, and to contribute to society in ways that truly matter. We also have to recognize the role that love, compassion, and cooperation play in this transformation. The truth is, none of us can achieve meaningful change on our own. The solutions to the world's problems will only emerge when we work together, when we recognize that we are all interconnected, and when we treat each other with the kindness and respect we all deserve. At the same time, we must hold on to the core values that have always guided humanity. The teachings of figures like Moses, Jesus, Buddha, and others have endured for a reason. These aren't just stories or religious doctrines. They are reflections of the deeper truths of life. The idea that love, integrity, and respect for others can guide us through the darkest times is not just a lofty ideal. It is the foundation upon which every truly successful civilization has been built. Yet today, we find that these values are often dismissed in favor of materialism and self-interest. Many people no longer believe in the power of these truths because they've been overshadowed by the pressures of modern life. But the fact remains, when we stray from these values, we lose sight of our true purpose, and we end up contributing to the very problems we are trying to escape. We need a new approach to life, one that recognizes the power of the individual while also fostering collective cooperation and respect. It's time for us to stop idolizing wealth, fame, and power as the ultimate goals in life. True success doesn't lie in how much we accumulate or how high we climb in the hierarchy. It lies in how we live with integrity, how we treat others, and how we contribute to the world around us. This is the essence of humanism, the understanding that humanity, at its core, is capable of greatness, but only when it aligns itself with the values of truth, integrity, and cooperation. The great changes that we need to see in the world can only happen when we stop looking outside ourselves for solutions and start looking within. The power to solve the world's problems lies in our own ability to connect with our deeper selves, to reject the lies and false promises of the system, and to act with the greater good in mind. The future is in our hands, and it's time to take responsibility for it. We must stop letting the system dictate our actions and begin living in alignment with the truth of who we are. We have the power to create a better world, but it starts with each one of us deciding to make a change, both within ourselves and in the way we interact with others. Together, we can rebuild a world that is more compassionate, more thoughtful, and more in tune with the natural laws that govern us all. If we embrace our true potential, we will not only create a better future for ourselves, but for all of humanity. The question is, are we ready to make that change? Are we ready to step up, embrace our humanity, and take responsibility for shaping the world we want to see? The time for change is now.